Entitled dog owner loses custody of his dog. To me, I apologize that this story is quite lengthy. This is kind of a two stories in one, but is mainly about the entitled man in the story. EM is the entitled man. EW is the entitled woman. I am me, duh. This was back in 2017. I regularly take my dogs to the dog park in order to let them get some exercise off the leash since I live in an apartment and don't have a yard. At the time I had a 3-year-old husky, Misty, and a 6-year-old pit bull, Titan. The dog park is close by and is very large, so plenty of room for the dogs to run. One day I'm at the park with my dogs and along comes EM and EW. EW is with her family and their 2 dogs and EM is alone with his dog. At this park there is a rule that is posted on signs everywhere stating that all dogs that are not inside the fenced-off areas must remain on a leash. Both EW and EM are outside of the fence. EW has neither of her dogs, a black lab and a chihuahua, on a leash and they go up to EM's dog, a Boston Terrier, who is leashed. EM is a little annoyed but tries to remain calm. EM, I'm sorry to bother you ma'am, but my dog isn't very sociable and has recently been fixed. My vet says that he shouldn't be around other dogs but still needs to have some minimal exercise. Plus there are signs that say that any dogs outside the fence have to be on a leash. Can you please leash your dogs? EW, excuse me? I don't have to leash my dogs. They do fine without a leash. You should apologize for assuming that you could tell me how to take care of my dogs. EM goes from being calm to pissed off in 0 seconds flat. EM, leash your fucking dogs, bitch. There are signs and your dogs are endangering mine. Me, whoa, hey, watch the language, man. There are kids here. Referring to EW's family, EM ignores me and continues yelling at EM. Your dogs are endangering my dogs and possibly themselves by not being on a leash, you stupid bitch. EW, is that how you treat women in this country? How dare you? You need to learn how to respect women. Another man, we'll call him OM, who was outside the fence, gets in between them to keep them separated. He tells EW to keep walking and ignore the man, which she does in a huff. So ends her part of the story. Me, to EM, what was that all about? He explains everything. Me, from what I saw, I think both of you could have handled that better. Yes, she was in the wrong and should have had her dogs leashed, but the situation didn't call for cussing in front of her kids. EM speaks normally but then yells louder towards the end of his sentence, deliberately trying to provoke EW again. EM, well that bitch ain't a woman, she's a HOE dog who needs to be leashed like the other 2. OM points to EM's pocket. Hey, have you been drinking? Alcohol isn't allowed here. I look to EM's pocket and sure enough there is an open beer bottle in his pocket where everyone can see. EM tries to explain that he picked it up off the ground and was going to throw it away on his way out, but it was obvious at this point that he was lying. Just when he had turned to leave, a cop shows up and stops EM. He had heard the commotion from the other side of the park, and sure enough, he gets arrested for public intoxication and disorderly conduct. A couple days later I'm at the park and the cop is there. This time he is off duty. I was curious about what happened with EM's dog. Cop, oh yeah, it turned out that he lied about the dog being spayed. The dog was also behind on its vaccinations by 2 years. They ended up charging him with animal cruelty and he lost custody of it. I felt bad and asked if there was anything I could do to help the dog. He told me that the dog was at the pound and that I could apply to foster the dog and later on, file to adopt it. So that's what I did. The county had already had the dog's vaccinations updated and had the dog fixed, so I had to wait for her to recover before I could pick her up for foster care. I learned that her name was Layla. At first Layla was a bit of a hassle. She was barely house trained and was not sociable with my dogs, but with effort and obedience classes, that didn't last very long. She eventually learned to be sociable with my dogs as well as others and they warmed up to her very quickly. A couple months later I am informed by the county that Layla's foster program was up and that I could now formally adopt her. I did so proudly, and she is now permanently here to stay. I thought that was the end of that, but no. The following year comes around and I take all 3 of my dogs to the park. Everything goes smoothly until I see him. He spots Layla and makes a beeline for me. EM, you. What are you doing with my dog? Me, she isn't your dog anymore. You lost the right to own her. EM, she's my dog. You can't have her. Me, she belongs to me now and I have the paperwork to prove it. You can't have her. Stay back. I gesture to Titan who is barking loudly, baring his teeth and pulling heavily on the leash, but EM doesn't care and tries to go for Layla. I warned him. I let go of Titan's leash and issue a defend command. Titan leaps up and knocks the guy to the ground. He has the guy by the base of his neck in a bite hold but doesn't draw any blood. EM is scared shitless and frantically begging me to call him off. I call Titan to return to me and EM gets up and walks away, but the cop is there to meet him again. It turns out the guy was on parole and was banned from the park. He was arrested again and we never saw him again. TLDR, guy gets arrested for public intoxication, loses custody of his dog, I adopt the dog, guy tries to steal the dog back, gets arrested again after nearly having throat ripped out by my other dog.